because it doesn't even seem to make any sense to call shoplifting. This isn't one person going to a store and concealing goods in their pockets or bags. These are organized mobs. Look at this video I'm sharing the screen with. They're not trying to hide anything. Nearly 100 people joined the mob of organized theft just this past weekend in San Francisco at a high-end shopping district. Look at this.
The sounds and sights of Union Square are not as pretty today as they usually are. Here's what's left behind. Windows are boarded up at Louis Vuitton. Crews replacing an entire door at this Yves Saint Laurent. Windows are shattered at Burberry with a hole still left over on its door. Wooden boards also covered the windows at Hermes. A witness captured the moment people tried to break in.
When I passed by, it's really around 100 people. And then after I passed them, they just started to try to get into Hermes, and they started cracking the glass.
It's insanity. Theft is so bad in San Francisco that over the last few years, Walgreens has closed 22 stores in the city. The retail pharmacy spends 35 times more on security guards in San Francisco than they do anywhere else.
Walgreens saying it's closing more than 20 stores, 5 in San Francisco, because of this rampant problem, what's being called organized retail crime. The company pulling the plug on these locations, saying it made the decision only after having increased our investments in security measures in stores across the city to 46 times our chain average in an effort to provide a safe environment. And drugstore items ending up in impromptu.
Of course, would they? And if they did decide to jump in, why would you get killed over this? A mob of thieves in... You can see footage of those shoplifters raiding a Wellspring pharmacy on your screen. You would think elected officials in San Francisco would be interested in solving this problem. But if you ask them, there is no problem. Just last month, San Francisco Mayor London Breed, real name, said Walgreens was exaggerating about having to
with them in order to ensure that we are covered in terms of having pharmacies all across the city. This is going to, of course, impact a lot of our neighborhoods, but I wouldn't go as far as to say they can't do business. They still have a lot of stores. Everywhere you look, almost every corner, you'll see a Walgreens, and some of these stores are not just closing because of retail theft, they're closing because they're not necessarily bringing in the sales that they once did. So I don't want to attribute that completely to just retail theft.
District Attorney Chesa Boudin, who used to be a translator for Hugo Chavez, now dead, wants San Francisco to show compassion for shoplifters. He recently explained that jailing shoplifters would expose them to poor living conditions in jail.
Who are going to take those packages sometimes. It's going to happen. And it's a crime, and we're going to prosecute it. But we want to do it in a way that's compassionate, that's humane, and that understands the root causes of that crime, and that gets at them. Because if we put someone in jail for stealing a package off my front steps for the maximum, which is usually going to be 6 months, and put them right back on the street, we've cost the city a lot of money. We've exposed someone to the sexual assault that occurs in jails, to the contagious diseases that are transmitted.
Idiocy. Now that it's more than just pharmacies that are being looted, Chesa Boudin is, quote, outraged about what happened over the weekend. In a tweet, which is the best way to attack an issue, he threatened looters to not quite bring that noise to our city, and that felony charges would follow. But Boudin has been district attorney for 2 years. He's done nothing while crime skyrocketed, which is why he is now facing a recall election. Heather, this is the most predictable catastrophe I've heard about in a long time, but it doesn't make it easier to watch and talk about.
And we're witnessing the disintegration of civilization right before our eyes. When massive number of individuals know that they can rampage through stores, plundering and looting, confident in their immunity from the law, there is nothing left of the civilized order. The protection of property is the cornerstone of a stable, prosperous society. Merchants have to know that they can put their goods into the stream of commerce without being robbed blind. Now, the common thread in this shameful looting, in the Waukesha Christmas parade murders, and in rising gun violence is the concept of disparate impact. And unless that concept is explicitly refuted and rejected, there's no way we're going to get a handle on this rising crime. The reason that felony theft laws are not being enforced, the reason that Darrell Brooks was put back onto the streets despite an active warrant and a 50-page rap sheet is because enforcing theft laws or enforcing requiring bail has a disparate impact on blacks. You look at the videos. But law enforcement has a disparate impact on blacks, not because it's racist, but because the black crime rate is so high. But when you stop enforcing the law in order to avoid disparate impact,
Right.
it's blacks who are hurt the most.
So Heather, what you're
So the
saying
solution-
is, right, just real quick, what you're saying is, if you look at the stats, raw numbers, more blacks are committing crimes than other minority groups, than whites. That's why the arrests are greater, and that's why there are more in jail. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. The law enforcement is a function of criminality. It is not driven by racism. The blacks die of homicide at 13 times the rate of whites. That's because they're committing homicide at 13 times the rate of whites. In New York City, where we are now, Brian, blacks commit about 75% of all shootings. According to the victims of and witnesses to those shootings, who are minorities themselves overwhelmingly, even though they're 23% of the population. Whites commit less than 2% of all shootings, though they're 34% of the population. So the solution here is not to stop enforcing the law. That means more mayhem, more deaths. The solution is to tackle, despite what shades racism, the root cause of inner city crime is family breakdown. As long as that problem goes unaddressed, our only solution is to enforce the law in a colorblind, just fashion.
When you steamroll children at a holiday parade on a Sunday afternoon, you no longer need to see a pie chart or a bar graph to know America, in Wisconsin, America's out of control. When they have to share the top story with this choreographed looting, you know America's out of control. And it's not because we're running out of food or money. It's not a catastrophe. This is a self-inflicted wound put forward by people who I believe want to destroy the country. And I think it's time for the average American, no politicians, to rise up and say they're not going to take it. Heather, you're all over this. I know how frustrated you are, but thanks for leading off the show.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
All right, meanwhile, we just told you